Hi everybody, this is Randy Ray at The Literate Texan, coming to you from Driftwood Ranch with my announcement for a new reading event this April. And most of you probably realize that this is April 8th or April 9th, so I'm a little late with my announcement video. Some people might think I should have, posted it earlier, and since I didn't get it up earlier, just skip to other content. But I've never been one to go along with the crowd, and I wanted to make an announcement video. So I have a bunch of wonderful co-hosts, and I'm going to mention them first before I go into details about the reading event. Mark at Book Time with Elvis is, I believe this was his idea originally, but I'm not sure. The last couple of months have been a blur for me. If you watch some of my other videos here, I've been having some health problems, but you can also probably tell from this video, I'm feeling a lot better. Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads is another one of our illustrious co-hosts. Also, Big Hard Books is another co-host. I mean, it's like a list of my favorite booktubers almost. It's like a real small list that leaves a lot of people out. Sean Standfast, another co-host. And finally, Jim at Mystery and Mayhem. So there you have it. That's the co-host for the event. There's a solid 6 of us. So for week 1, this is one of those events where, okay, everybody knows what an adventure book is. If you don't know what an adventure book is, I'm going to make a video that addresses that subject in more or less greater detail soon. But suffice it to say, it's a book where the characters go on an adventure. Usually that means traveling outside of their normal everyday life and facing danger. You could read about the idea of adventure fiction in Wikipedia. Adventure fiction, to me, is one of those meta genres that floats over a lot of other genres. For example, The Hobbit is obviously an adventure novel, but it's also a fantasy novel. But there are other fantasy novels out there that aren't necessarily adventure novels. And the example that I saw was that, oh golly, now I can't remember. There were 2 Charles Dickens books that were mentioned, and one of them, David Copperfield, was not considered an adventure novel, even though some danger was present in some of the chapters. In most of the chapters, there was not danger present. But A Tale of Two Cities, on the other hand, was an adventure novel because there was danger in every single chapter of being found out and possibly life-threatening events and that sort of thing. So, we do have prompts, but you can ignore the prompts, as I often do during these events, or you can run along with the prompts, as I am doing with this particular event. Week 1, which is already passed, was to read some adventure fiction in a shorter form. The suggestion is under 200 pages. I read a book called The Real Cool Killers by Chester Himes. It's part of a series of detective novels that Chester Himes wrote about Gravedigger Jones and Coffin Ed Johnson. And they're a couple of detectives for the police department. And they're period pieces. I believe they're set in the 40s or 50s. But they're great. And this one was non-stop action from beginning to end. And also, since it was, much shorter than 200 pages, I think it was 154 pages, it went by really quick. So I'm about to start reading another book in that series as a buddy read with my friend Mark at Book Time with Elvis. It's called Cotton Comes to Harlan, which you may have heard of because it was a reasonably famous blaxploitation film. I'm a fan of that genre too. Not everybody is, but I like it. There were some brilliant movies made during that period of the 70s. So that was week 1. So, if you missed week 1 for whatever reason, you can go back and find something short. There are books filled with short stories that are adventure stories. You could read a short story. You could read something as short as 20 pages to check this one off your box if that's what you're interested in doing. Week 2 is a long form adventure book, a novel over 200 pages. So for this one, I'm probably going to read The Princess Bride, which I've read before. It's by William Goldman, who's a terrific screenwriter and also a terrific novelist. Most people know him as a screenwriter because he wrote the screenplays for stuff like, The Princess Bride. He also wrote the screenplay to Misery, though. and he wrote the screenplay to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He was really brilliant. And he died not too long ago. It's sometime within the last 4 or 5 years, maybe sometime within the last 2 or 3 years. But you know what? I loved The Princess Bride. I loved the movie when I saw it. I loved the book when I read it. And I'm looking forward to dipping back into it. But I'm also not going to limit myself. I'm probably going to read several other adventure novels this month. I've got a whole list that I'm going to talk about in another video. I don't want to get into too much detail about that. But let's talk about week 3. In week 3, it says in my notes here that we're going to look at adventure in an alternative form. So it might be a movie, it might be a cartoon show, it might be a TV show, something like that. So, an obvious choice for something like that might be Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Definitely an adventure film. Any of the Indiana Jones films, for that matter. But, it could also be the TV series, Young Indiana Jones, which was really good, surprisingly. But you don't have to limit yourself to that either. The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., if you're into steampunk and Weird West stuff. It was a great TV show starring Bruce Campbell. A lot of people don't remember it because it was only on for 1 season, but it's definitely an adventure show. And of course, do I even have to mention the various cartoons in the adventure genre? Scooby-Doo would probably qualify, and it would also qualify as horror and mystery and any number of other things. So for week 3, you don't even have to read a book if you don't want to. Although presumably everybody who watches my channel and participates in bookish events likes to read books. Week 4 I haven't decided what I'm going to do for an alternative form for week 3 yet, but I'll come up with something. Week 4, nonfiction adventure. And here, you can come up with a lot of ideas for this. The one that I've chosen is called Roughing It. It's by Mark Twain. It's actually a fairly long book, and it's about Mark Twain as a young man. He traveled to the West Coast to mine for gold, and it tells all about his experiences with the various characters that he met along the way. So, I love Mark Twain. He's very funny. Nonfiction might be a category that only loosely applies to something that he's written, because he tends to embellish and make things a little more interesting, a little more funny than they actually were in real life. Excuse me, I have to take a sip. I am getting better, but I'm not entirely well yet. And one of the things that happens to me is I get dehydrated very easily, so I apologize for drinking in front of you. Also, this week, starting yesterday, we're doing a group read of an adventure novel by H. Rider Haggard. It's a novel called She, and it's part of his Alan Quatermain series. If you're not familiar with Alan Quatermain, he was kind of an Indiana Jones type figure, sort of, who probably is most famous for King Solomon's Mines, which is a great book too. I read it last year. Briefly, I'm just going to mention some other adventure novels off the top of my head that you may or may not have thought of. Treasure Island, of course, is a great adventure novel. Kidnapped is another great one. The Count of Monte Cristo is probably considered an adventure novel. A lot of these guys that wrote adventure novels wrote multiple adventure novels. Almost all of H.G. Wells' stuff would be considered adventure novels, including The Time Machine. So, there's Captain Blood by Raphael Sabatini would be considered an adventure novel. Tarzan would be another example. Any of the Mars books by Edgar Rice Burroughs are also adventure novels. I mean, basically we're talking about rip-roaring, what's going to happen after the end of the cliffhanger ending to each chapter kind of stuff. This is the fun kind of stuff that a 12-year-old boy would enjoy reading. And so I've discussed it with some of my other co-hosts, and the original announcement video said this was going to be an event for April, but we've decided to extend this event until the end of May. We do not have new prompts for May yet. We might not come up with any new prompts for May yet. You might just want to continue reading adventure fiction that checks off multiple boxes in the reading projects that you're participating in. Or maybe not. Maybe adventure fiction isn't for you. Maybe you're into other stuff. Either way, it's cool with me, but I'm really excited about spring into adventure for April. I'm sorry I didn't make as many Sherlock Holmes videos as I'd hoped to, but I think that event's coming back next year. But that's it for my Spring into Adventure announcement video for 2024. I will be back soon with more videos.